My name is Tamsyn Heynes and I'm a contemporary ballet dancer. I also run an ensemble project company called Iridescence Dance Company. Iridescence, it means the reflection of different objects in the spectrum of the rainbow. I'm pretty much an observer, so I tend to see a little bit more in things than, the person that will just walk by. And that's kind of where I got the inspiration for the name. Iridescence is just kind of whatever we're inspired to do in that moment. Also, we don't really record much of the work because one of the truest reflections of art, if it were to reflect life, is that it's impermanent. The fact that it's there and it's gone is really reflective of life in that way. So I like to do a show and then move on from it. We do project work, so I like to collaborate with other artists from other genres. We've collaborated with live musicians before, visual artists, and had visuals in the back while we were dancing. At the moment we're working on something with a published author, other dancers, choreographers. I like to think that's also a collaboration, even though it can just be, the choreographer tells the dancer what to do. I love stories, and I always have. I love reading, and I feel a lot of the time, especially if it's a movement-based art, the storytelling actually trying to impart something on people rather than just making shapes can sometimes get a little bit lost. It gets so conceptual and abstract that for your casual audience member who's not really viewed much dance, they have no idea what's going on. So I like to make sure that there is a narrative that you can follow, and that's why we use dialogue if we need it, or we use music or visuals to try and just help the story along. I was born in Cape Town, South Africa, and we came here when I was 2. I started ballet when I was 4. I asked my mum to put me in ballet. I don't remember it, but everybody said I just kept asking her, and so she did, she put me in. And I was chronically shy, so I literally cried for the first 2 months of my lessons, just sat in the corner and cried. And the only thing that kept my mum taking me was the fact that I practiced at home. And then one day I was just like, I actually want to do this, and that was it. What kept me in dance would be I just really, really love music. Because some people, they want to sit down and listen to it. I kind of want to move. I loved my ballet teacher so much. I stayed with her till I was 16. Then I went to interstate to Marie Walton Marne. I came back to Perth to go to WAPA. I had the choice to go to New Zealand, and I obviously chose WAPA because Perth is home. From there I got a full scholarship to South African Ballet Theatre, which was the National Ballet Company at the time, which was lovely. It was amazing to be on the stage with a live orchestra, but again I felt really quite restricted. Growing up, I used to get a little bit frustrated with teachers saying, "Smile now," which isn't a bad thing, but I always found if you don't feel like smiling, you shouldn't have to smile, especially if it's supposed to be self-expression. And I just found that in the company, it was probably even a little bit more so than even growing up, that you would get that this is how you're supposed to be feeling, this is how you're supposed to be looking. So I returned back to Perth, had a little stint with remnant dance, and then I thought I can do this on my own. And that's when I decided to form Iridescence, and then I found another dancer and we put on our first show, and it was a huge learning curve. Probably everything that could technically go wrong went wrong, but at the same time it was a good first experience because then you lose all of your, oh my goodness, what if something goes wrong nerves. The most recent project that we're working on, well, really that I'm working on with a photographer, is called Roots and Blood, and it came about because I had a few other projects on the go and I fell pregnant, and I was like, oh, I can't do these other projects now, but I thought it would just be honest for a woman to record something as her body's changing which for a dancer can be a big thing because we're always in front of mirrors and we can be very self-critical. But ultimately, I just thought it would be a nice idea to show that you can still make art regardless of what your body's doing. And also, it's like almost the ultimate creation that a person can do to create another life. So I just thought it would be interesting to see how that could develop. Physically, I've had symphysis pubis dysfunction, so I've lost huge amounts of mobility. Towards the end of the project, I end up in the water because my legs can't really move, so it's just really my body moving around in the ocean. And also just the use of stillness. When you look at growth is quite slow and steady. You can't think, oh, I didn't pull my tummy in there enough, because you can't. And it's kind of been refreshing to do work like that. The next project that we're working on, it's called Shakti, and there's 3 characters. They're women in different cultures, and the culture has its expectations of females specifically, and how the individual is trying to be themselves within whatever their society is telling them to be. So we've got an aerialist who will be on the rope, and I'll be the dancer. And the aerialist will be the inner restings, so how they're trying to fight against it. The juxtaposition between the dancer doing what the character's doing on the outside and what's actually going on with her emotionally on the inside will be interesting to watch. We're quite excited about it. It's extremely feminist, which I think is necessary. But with this one, because we are looking at cultures, we have to be a little bit sensitive, so we'll be getting it reviewed. And I just hope that in a not very, I'm going to shove this down your throat way, people can maybe see how females feel, because there's a lot of times where people go, oh, but she's going along with it anyway. She doesn't necessarily want to. Or she's not going along with it, but, what's going on inside, maybe the opposite. Maybe she wants to, but then... So just showing that people do things that they don't necessarily want that. And that happens with females a lot. A representation of what females can go through in the patriarchy in a non-preachy way, we hope. I'm inspired by nature, so for me, it's lovely to create in Perth. You could just go sit under a tree and then have an idea. Some people need hustle and bustle, but for me, I find it quite peaceful. And if you find that you're in need of somebody's advice, or somebody to look over a thing, or somebody who has a expertise in a field, you'll find them. So you basically have everything you need here. And I think the slight separation from the eastern states is actually a positive thing. It can just kind of keep a buffer between you falling into trends as opposed to creating more original stuff, because it's not in front of your eyes all the time. I love dancing in Perth because I just love the vibe of the Perth creative scene, and I feel that for those artists and performers who do put out work, because it can be a little bit harder in the more heavily populated places, it comes from a real place of passion and a real need to express it. You don't have to run away somewhere else to find that. Also, I feel a lot of people are very well trained in Perth, and then they leave, and we can lose a lot of really talented people leaving because they think they won't be able to find a niche, or they won't be able to find an audience. And I find that a bit sad, because we do have amazing training, we do have a loyal audience base, we do have a lot of highly creative people. So I like to keep it based here. I would say, if you're an emerging dancer or artist, don't fall into the trap of trying to be what you think the audience wants to see. Be yourself. There's no way in the world you're going to be able to satisfy however many people are sitting in front of you. And art is expression, so you're expressing yourself. Yeah, be yourself, even if it's scary. It's liberating.